Evil Pixel.
Conan the Barbarian has been a very familiar character for most of us growing up. There have been countless video games made after him, dating all the way back to the Apple II and Commodore 64 era. Now, some of them cool, a lot of them weird, most of them not so good. Even now, for the current consoles, they just released a new Conan game for the PS4 and Xbox One called Conan Exiles. However, there was a 64-bit Conan beat-em-up game that was set to be released but never was. And so in today's video, we'll be discussing Conan for the Atari Jaguar. Now, as stated previously, Conan has been a pretty iconic character for quite some time, and such has gained a decent cult following since his debut in fantasy stories published in Weird Tales back in 1932. That's right, Conan the Barbarian has been around since the 30s, originally created by Robert E. Howard. From this popularity, Conan moved to other forms of media, including movies, cartoons, and even Marvel Comics. Now, the Atari Jaguar, I feel, needs no introduction, as it was one of the biggest video game flops ever. The console thrived for good games in its library, and inevitably failed to meet its expectations. Now, a side-scrolling beat-em-up was announced and teased for the new Atari Jaguar. However, this game is shrouded in mystery, as not much is known about it. All that is known is what was just stated about it. It would have been for the Atari Jaguar, it was a beat-em-up, and it was being developed by a company called Arcade Zone. Now, Arcade Zone was a very young company at the time, started by three guys, Carlo Perconti, Lies Belladoni, and Gabriel Gary. Now, the three of these guys pursued their love for video games and decided to start Arcade Zone in London of all places. They chose London in order to be noticed by Nintendo, London being a key location for Nintendo at the time. Conan for the Jaguar was only ever mentioned once in French video game magazine CD Consoles issue number 2 and number 5, and sadly it was never heard from ever again. Thankfully, much of this game's information was uncovered by Retro Gaming Magazine, where they uncovered an old 1995 VHS video of the game actually in action at Winter CES of the same year. Now, according to them, it was unsure if this Conan was based off of the official franchise or simply their own rendition. Now, this VHS tape is the only proof that this game actually existed. As you can see, the game allows you to play as the brute warrior Conan in a side-scrolling beat-em-up which looks as though it took inspiration from classics such as Final Fight, Streets of Rage, and also a little bit of Captain Commando. The game appeared to have a good variety of enemies, both humans and animals alike, with an energy bar and the ability to unleash different kinds of attacks. Now, even though the game doesn't seem to take advantage of the 64-bit console, or seem as though it even belongs in a 64-bit console, it still looks pretty good. What I found interesting was that Arcade Zone developed three other games, Legends in 1994, Iron Commando, and Nightmare Busters for the Super Famicom. And you can actually see bits of all three of these games being implemented in this early version of Conan. Especially Legend, it looks very similar. Now, thankfully, Retro Magazine was able to make contact with one of the coders of the game, Carlo Perconti, and when asked about the game, he stated, "We got involved developing on the Jaguar after we met some key people at one of the CES shown in Las Vegas. I do not recall who exactly. Lies and I, we were impressed by the concept of the GPU Jaguar. A uniqueless processor which could allow huge sprites to be drawn on screen, and which broke the limitations of number of hardware sprites on one video line like we used to have back in the SNES days. So at first we decided to develop a new graphic engine based on multiplayer of sprites on PC. Then through Arcade Zone we got access to one of the Jaguar hardware, and then we started to port the beginning of a first possible level of what we wanted to demonstrate based on a Conan character. But really, it was only to show up the engine, no license was signed yet at the time. For sure, back at that period, we got many inspirations from the big coin-up arcade titles like Golden Axe and the like. So sadly, not even the first level was complete. They were also able to get a statement from the co-founder, Lies Belladoni. He stated, "We even made an attempt on the Atari Jaguar, the stillborn console for which we developed, without bragging. The most beautiful beat-em-up with huge sprites and monumental backgrounds. But this, alas, no one has seen it." Now apparently, the game's development stopped after the Atari Jaguar was discontinued and was considered a failure. And honestly, there appears to be nothing as far as prototypes or even an early build of the game is concerned. But you gotta admit, the game certainly looked good. but why they chose to make it for the Atari Jaguar is beyond me. I feel like it would have done just fine in the SNES or Genesis, hell even the 32X. Personally, I prefer smaller sprites, so I really don't see what the big deal was. But of course, that is all speculation, and that is what we know of Conan for the Atari Jaguar. Thank you guys for watching. Check out some of our other videos if you'd like. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter, check out our Patreon, and give us any suggestions for any future videos. And I'll catch you all next time.